He's the host of the Gerry Callahan podcast. He always has opinions, and he's been a victim of cancel culture himself, so I figured he might comment on big tech deplatforming President Trump. Gerry, thank you very much for joining us.
Hi, Grace. Congrats on the show. It's good to join you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so my first question has to be, now, and I kind of know what your answer is going to be. I think we feel the same way, but I'm going to throw it out anyway. Do you think Bill Belichick will accept the Medal of Freedom, or do you think he'll go and have Trump drape it around his neck?
This is a great question, a great story, it's great theater. I'm rooting for it. I want him to go down there. I want him to get the medal and just drive everybody up here nuts. I mean, the Boston Globe, the whole place will just self-immolate. I mean, they will all lose their minds if he does this. So I'm rooting for it, but I've decided I don't think he will, Grace, and I'll tell you why. He's not afraid of the mob. I really believe that. I really think that he would defy the mob. The Globe is always the ones leading the woke mob, but the media is just begging him, pleading with him not to do this. They hate Trump so much they can't stand the thought of Belichick even being in the same room with them. But I think, as you know, sports have gone super woke now. The NFL is not as bad as the NBA, but it's bad, and there's some guys on this team that are, activists, guys like Devin McCourty, and they won't like that. It will be divisive in his locker room, and if there's one thing we know about Belichick is he's generally avoided the big distraction, and he does, as he always says, I do what's best for the team, and going there and pissing off a lot of his own players would not be what's best for his team, as much as you and I would enjoy it.
I would very much enjoy it. I think a lot of people would. I had Corey Lewandowski on the last hour, and he was really hoping that Bill Belichick would accept it and go. But I agree with you. I don't think it's going to happen. I've lost a lot of faith in people kind of sticking by their guns. I do understand your point of view, though, that he doesn't want to anger any of his players. My next question has to be about big tech. So I don't know, maybe I'm being dramatic. I feel like a leftist right now, the way I'm talking about it. But this past weekend, watching big tech really flex their muscles as far as censorship goes. They deplatformed Donald Trump, and then they basically deplatformed Parler. They made it so that Apple, Amazon, Google could not host Parler on their servers. Were you as frightened as I was? Because I really was. I don't want to be over dramatic about it, but it felt like now we've always been on a slippery slope, but this was a lot in one weekend.
I agree with you 100%, Grace. I was as frightened. I hate to admit it, but this is scary. And I tell you, we used to say this when I was on the radio, and we were we had a target on our backs, and everything we said was scrutinized. And sometimes you'd cross the line, or you'd go close to the line, and you go home, and you have that pit in your stomach, like they're coming after me today. I said something, the Globe and all the dark forces out there are going to be harassing the station, and they're going to be trying to get us taken off the air. I feel that way every day now. Just doing a podcast, just on Twitter, I said, soon enough, they're going to get us all. I was reading about, General Flynn. Forget Trump. I mean, that's insane to take the president of the United States, to ban him from everything. He's banned from Spotify, Grace. He can't, listen to his favorite music.
He's also banned from Pinterest, Gerry. He's banned from Pinterest, which I know is going to be a real hard thing for him to handle.
He's banned from everything. And I look and I see General Flynn banned and I'm saying, what did he do? And I swear to God, I was just sitting there and I'm scrolling through Twitter, and 5 minutes later, there's O.J. Simpson talking about the events of the day. So General Flynn, American hero, can't tweet. He's banned, I assume, forever because he's associated with Trump. And I don't know if you've mentioned this, just breaking, Ron Paul has been banned by Facebook. Ron Paul, just an old libertarian. We all know Ron Paul. He doesn't seem particularly dangerous, but they're banning anybody and everyone. They're in power now. They won on November 3rd. They're in control, and they're not even subtle. They're not even cute about it anymore. What they did to Parler is unconscionable, and I tell you what drives me nuts, Grace, is not so much these tyrants. We know Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg. We know they're surrounded by these authoritarian liberals who are pushing this agenda. It's the number of people who don't seem to mind.
I know.
And I deal with them on Twitter. And they say, yeah, well, Trump did this. And I'm saying, don't you understand? It's not about Trump. It's about this war on the principle of free speech that they're going to, before they're through, there'll be, just one groupthink on social media, and people, like me and you will, I don't know, we can talk to each other, but we will be banned from these sites. And it seems to me that there's only a few liberals left, and they're not happy. The Glenn Greenwalds are writing about this, and they understand the threat here. But the number of people who think it's just fine, get rid of these. Oh, I don't like him. They're gone, and they don't mind. They don't complain. They don't see it.
And I think, Gerry, that's a testament to TDS and how strong it is, because these people. Right. I mentioned this earlier in the hour, but these people can't see beyond Donald Trump, and they can't see. AOC once said, "You're missing the forest for the trees." If you think this is about Donald Trump, I mean, you're deranged, because it's clearly going to become, a guy from Yahoo News said right after, okay, now ban Tucker Carlson and Molly Hemingway, who are two of my favorite people to follow. So it's really wild. And I saw a lot of that too. I saw a lot of comments underneath it. Oh, just so you guys know, even though he's banned from Twitter, he can still talk on Gab or, one of these things. People supporting this craziness.
I tweeted about that guy too, that Yahoo News guy, immediately saying ban, Tucker Carlson, Greg Gutfeld, Molly Hemingway, and I'm saying, and you thought this was going to stop with the president or his family? It's not. They like this, and I swear to God, when I was in college, it was a long time ago, but I went to UMass. The professors were all liberal, but they understood the principle of free speech and how sacred that was. I can't imagine today those same people saying this is wrong. We can't do this. This is a slippery slope, and it's dangerous, and it's un-American. Hell, we're being warned by Angela Merkel today that we shouldn't be doing this. In Germany, they're looking at us and saying, "You guys are sacrificing your liberties, and it's dangerous." I've seen a few journalists applauding this, and to me, it's so bizarre. Hell, the Boston Globe, that's all they do. The Boston Globe the other day had an editorial or a column where they called for people to boycott New Balance and Sam Adams, two great local companies. But they didn't. Well, the founder of New Balance, Jim Davis, gave money to the Trump inauguration 4 years ago. And Jim Cook from Sam Adams met with Trump about health care like a couple of years ago. And they tell people, no, don't give them your business. Local companies, manned by local people, paying their taxes. And the Globe doesn't want you to go to them because they somehow were associated with the president of the United States.
And Gerry, you were one of the first real cases of this mob mentality and, getting your pitchforks and getting people to turn on someone because you don't like their opinion. So I love hearing your take on it, but I do want to switch gears here really quickly. I want to offer you an opportunity to congratulate Marty Walsh on his new job. I'm sure you're so excited for him. I know you're a big fan. I follow you on Twitter and I see all your tweets about Marty. But I also want to get your take on the mayoral race. I'm guessing if you could pick someone who's a favorite, it might be a police commissioner.
It would be, and this is our last best hope. I said when Marty Walsh moved on to the Biden administration, which shocked me because I didn't think Biden was choosing any white males, a white Irish Catholic male from Boston didn't seem like that was a good fit. They were all about diversity, but anyway, it was good to get rid of them. And my first thought was the next guy or girl or woman is going to be worse. It's going to be another Ayanna. And most of them, the potential candidates, they're radical lefty, defund the police people. And then along comes Willie Gross, the police commissioner, and I say that's our only hope, an actual big city mayor who doesn't hate cops. Imagine that. And I thought around the country, maybe we could start a trend where people could say, this isn't a good idea. We shouldn't be defunding the police. This is a good idea to have a law and order mayor in these crazy times. So I'm hoping he announces. I know he's thinking about it. I think he will announce, and I hope that he can withstand the mob because the Globe and the rest of the crazies are coming after him. And, I think he's tough enough, and I hope he wins. And if he doesn't, then I give up. We're done. And
I'm sure the Boston police would be so excited to have someone, in charge who's not condemning them and, vilifying them at all chances. Gerry, I do want to ask you quickly, the Democrats are talking about impeaching Donald Trump, and I found it interesting. A reporter asked Joe Biden, they took a break from asking him about his favorite milkshakes, and they asked him what he thought about it, and he was so hesitant to reply. He did the same thing he always does, like, oh, that's not up to me, that's up to Congress, whatever they want to do. What does this impeachment tell you about Biden, that they want to keep Trump in the spotlight for another potentially 100 days of this circus?
Right. It's nuts. I mean, just the thought of you want to impeach a guy with 9 days left, a guy who was leaving with no friends left. I mean, they've done their job. They beat him. They disgraced him. They tried to destroy everyone around him. I think it would be the definition of a distraction. And if I'm Biden, I'd be dead set against this. Just let him go away. I mean, he's not going to be at the inauguration. And we're all moving on. I would say the one thing that disappoints me about Trump, I don't blame him for the mob. I have so many questions about the mob. I have so many questions about the Capitol Police. Hopefully we'll get answers, but I didn't like the way he treated Mike Pence. That was not good, and I hope he does something in the final 9 days to make it up to Mike Pence, because that was not cool.
And another thing that I tend to see that happens is there's a lot of people who will come out and say, oh, I disagree with Trump. He's wrong. This was a bad situation. And it was a terrible situation what happened last week. But there's a lot of people who will say that and will be reasonable about it. And then what the left does is they overplay their hand to such an extent that people kind of revert back to Trump, and they start, going back towards Trump because they're like, yeah, he's not perfect, but whatever this is, whether it's censorship or impeachment or all this virtue signaling, that's not helpful either.
Right. I asked the question. I'm serious about this. And you've heard it too. I hear from all these lefty trolls who say, accuse me of supporting this mob, this rabble that went in and maybe we think killed a cop, certainly trashed the place, certainly assaulted some cops. And I'm saying, why do you think I would be on the side of violent mobs? That's their thing. I'm against violent mobs. I'm against all violent mobs. I've been against them for the last 7 months, and I'm still against them. And on top of that, these vandals, these thugs, caused more damage to our side, and emboldened their side than anyone possibly could have in one afternoon. I mean, why?
No, I totally agree. It's so disheartening, and no one's more upset than, and I really do feel like this, than people who are part of the MAGA movement, because it's just, it gives the left such reason to just dismiss all of us as seditionists and crazy people and racists, right, and morons, because that's what those people were. They were morons. But I agree with you, Gerry. It's not hard to be consistent about not liking violence. That's kind of an easy thing to be consistent on. So I agree with you. I absolutely do not condone it. And I've been getting that a lot too. Like, oh, are you going to talk about what happened at the Capitol? I've talked about it. I don't know what else I can say. I mean, it's bad. It was bad.
It's terrible, and I hope they all get arrested and do hard time. I wish all violent mobs had to pay a price. I wish they were all held accountable. As you know, in Portland, 90% of them have the charges dropped. They don't get prosecuted in Portland. Antifa scum do not get prosecuted. I want them prosecuted, and I want these MAGA morons prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Gerry, thank you so much for joining us. Can you give out your Twitter handle for as long as you have it? I mean, I'm sure you'll be banned by the end of the night.
For now, it's at Gerry Callahan, and it's at Callahan Podcast, and you can find it where all your podcasts are, wherever you listen to podcasts. So check it out. We got into this big time today, and we'll continue to do it. And if Belichick actually goes to D.C., Grace, it's going to be the biggest story of the year so far. It's going to be wild.
It definitely will be, and I'm sure Gerry's podcast is on Spotify and Apple, again, for now, until Jack Dorsey hears this interview and pulls the plug on it. Thank you so much, Gerry, for joining us. Guys, we will be back with the one and only Howie Carr. This is The Grace Curley Show.